The Center for Innovative Leadership video podcast being brought to you by the National Association of Elementary School Principals.
Welcome to the NAESP Center for Innovative Leadership video podcast. We're Andy Jacks and Hamish Brewer, two of the fellows with the Center for Innovative Leadership. Andy is an elementary principal at the Ashland Elementary in Manassas, Virginia. And I, of course, am the middle school principal at Fred Lynn Middle in Woodbridge, Virginia. The Center for Innovative Leadership video podcast is all about amazing real leaders doing real work across the country today. And you're going to get to meet one here again shortly. As we look at overcoming obstacles in unique and innovative ways. We can learn from each other. We can learn from each other's insights, experiences, take them back to our schools and be better for our kids each and every day. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this to keep up with the conversation around innovative leadership.
That's right. We are so excited today. Our friend Kelley Begley McCall, principal, was it Mrs. Principal her kids call her, right? Mrs. Principal.
A few of them do.
Yeah, so Mrs. Principal, Kelley is a principal in Kansas. And we love Kelley. She's done so much great work, great personality, great person overall, just good people. And tell us exactly where your school is in Kansas.
We are right outside of Kansas City Metro, so it's called Shawnee, Kansas, but we are in Johnson County, which is a pretty huge county. We call it the blue dot in the middle of red Kansas. But it's
all right. We're not going political. We don't. That's not.
No, we're not. But it's interesting though because it's been different. It's a different climate than being down in Wichita. That's for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we live in Northern Virginia. I mean, so many, and we talk to people across the country. There's so many states that are like that, where they have, like, it's almost like states within states, right? One part of the state is a certain sort of mindset, or whatever you want to call it. Even urban versus rural areas within a state,
sure.
And that becomes a challenge when you look at, I'm sure, how states support schools across the whole part of that state, right?
Well, Andy, there is a real reality to the principal leadership in that sometimes you get involved in some of the affairs of school board and some of the dynamics of politics in your area. And as a leader, you're often the hub and centerpiece of your school setting and community environment. And you can naturally be swept into some of those discussions. And there's an art to that, definitely. But Kelley, have you found the yellow brick road?
I feel like I have. I have found a great home here in DeSoto. It's the DeSoto School District, which kind of takes up DeSoto and Shawnee, has been, I don't know, I've found my place. I feel like I not only can take my trauma-informed background and my love for and passion for education, but it's so infused with my beliefs and how I see school should be. And so I found a really good place for me and my heart for education.
And you know, Kelley, Andy and I have got to know you for a number of years now. Like I've lost count of the amount of years, restaurants, conferences that we've ended up chatting about life, about school, about kids. And I know the NAESP conference was definitely one of those main hubs for us where we first got to meet. And some of the things I really appreciate in meeting you and knowing you is you work with the Mums as Principal group, but also you have an amazing family. One of your boys is on the way to New Zealand right now in the year. And then finally, the service of your family. Your family is very much tied to the military. One of your sons is active duty right now. We salute you. We thank you, family. And we take our hats off to you and your family in that work and what you do. So thank you, Kelley.
I have 4 kids, and they all bring me different viewpoints, that's for sure. And then I'm the oldest of 5 with 2 extra step siblings, but I'm pretty much between my 4 kids and my 4 brothers and sisters. I can pretty much look at any kid and see one of my family members. And it's been super helpful as I walk through the education path because I can connect and love and find that peace that is meaningful to me. And I think it just makes me a better educator.
All right, stop right away. Take away. So so many times we try to figure out kids, right? And we try to figure out what's going on with them, their lives, and I think really so much is personality. Because even in your family, I mean, Hamish has 4, I have 3, you have 4, and just our own siblings we've had. You could raise a kid in the same exact household, and they're going to come out totally different. I mean, it's like it's incredible. The personality differences between people are just great. So sometimes we put too much emphasis on sort of background and like their life situation. Reality is their personality is sort of genetically sort of wired a certain way. And we have to kind of tailor ourselves to connect with them in that way and not necessarily force them to change for us. Right.
Right.
And you're talking about, so talk to me about how, like you talked about, you can sort of relate to them because you've sort of seen this before in other people. Right. So how does that work if you're working with kids and you're sort of figuring them out?
I think for me, finding that connection. So I'll give you an example. So I have one of my kids in my own home is struggling with gender dysphoria, which is tough, and it's tough because it brings in anxiety and depression and levels that you've not seen, and they struggle with who they are and what they believe and just what they want to present to the world.
Right.
And I happen to have a student who is also struggling with that at a very young age. And my ability to connect with not only the child, but the parents is profound.
Yeah.
And it's changed a lot of what I do at our school because of it. I'm kind of passionate about going gender neutral on a lot of things, so that all are feeling welcome. And it helps me have an empathy for others that I wouldn't have normally. And when I say I'm the oldest of 5, there's a huge gap between myself and my younger brothers and sisters. And we all have the same parents, but my youngest is 16 years younger than me and 14 years younger than me, and then 12 years younger than me. So, and my parents divorced during that. So I raised them in so many ways, and I have gifted, I have struggling learner, so I've seen it, and I've lived it, and I can empathize in a different way, and get to the heart of the matter of a kid versus just seeing them as a number or a situation or a problem. I love somebody like that. So because I love somebody like that, I treat them as if I know they have family who loves them. They're somebody's kid or sibling, or it's different. And I had a boss once upon a time tell me, find one thing you love about a kid and you will find 10 more right away. And if you haven't connected with that kid, that's on you. And so I just haven't met a kid I didn't like or found a way to love. So.
Well, and Kelley, knowing you and Andy, how long we've known Kelley, that's real. Kelley is one of the most authentic, passionate, caring individuals that are out there in education today. And, just even we haven't even started the video and there's takeaways. Thank you for making the principalship real. Like, we all got stuff going on, like we all got stuff going on. Principals all got stuff going on. You helped us make it okay for it to be real. And again, one of the most authentic, caring people and nurturing people in education today is Kelley.
Yeah, I could agree more. And you're bringing up a tough issue that schools are facing now, and you're not afraid to support it and to deal with it and to support the student and go head on with this issue. You're not hiding. You're not hiding from it. And school principals have to deal with all sorts of different things, not just necessarily what you thought you would deal with whenever you went to school, right? It's not just about reading instruction, right? It's we deal with all kids, the whole child, and everything in between, right? And I know. Seeing you take that just head on and really trying to adjust your practices and your school practices for every child is huge.
And it's not, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that life is easy and I accepted and dealt with it in the perfect way, because I didn't. It was a struggle, and it continues to be hard because you want to protect your kid, right? And you want to do the best thing for them. But I've found a voice and a way to advocate while still not always understanding the whole picture or understanding every piece of it. And you're so right. The other day I had when we're dealing with things at school, no one teaches you in principal school. It's not only those things, but it's the car accident at car loop. And it's it's all of these things that you get that encounter. And, that's what I love about the job is it's never the same.
Right.
And we're always challenged, but it can be overwhelming if you're not ready for that.
Right. Totally. Well, Andy definitely has a great solution to car loops. He gets stormtroopers and Star Wars arcade game in his car loop. So
the best. So my recommendation, here's another principal tip, right? If you ever have costume day, right? And so we've done the superhero costumes where we had one of our counselors I remember years ago was dressed up like Superman. And since we were already dressed up, we were all dressed up. And he goes to the front car ride line because it was his duty and he was the crosswalk. There's a crosswalk. We have like hundreds of cars coming through like crazy.
Yes.
I have this phenomenal picture of him holding up traffic with the stop sign and all that as Superman with the cape flowing, right? It was great. Another time we did the Star Wars characters. We surprised the whole school with one of the pastors at the church that did church here on Sundays. They all have these like top of the line Star Wars costumes. And so I surprised the whole staff on May the 4th day. And they came in and the whole school, we went around the whole school, lightsaber battles and all this stuff. It was really awkward when in the second grade hallway, all the kids were yelling, fight, 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 which was kind of funny. Like, where did they learn that? Like, we didn't teach that to them in our school, right? Like, everything was kind of funny. Like, these guys are lightsaber. I finally say, okay, enough. By the end, we had the stormtroopers, exactly what Hamish said. The stormtroopers are holding up traffic and directing traffic, and parents just loved it. They're taking pictures, they're laughing. It's just great.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
We all need it. We all need a break from the norm.
Oh, man. Because like you said, we're dealing with tough stuff, and we have to balance the hard part of the job with the best part of the job too. And, we got to make our own way in that whole sort of, wacky world that we live in, but that's what makes it special.
Well, Kelley, where can we find you? Where can the audience find you online, on social media? Please let us know where we can find you before we start getting into this video that was made by one of your amazing teachers. Yeah.
I'm on Twitter. I'm at McCall_Kelley with an EY. And that's where I am on Twitter. I'm an Inspired Principal on Instagram. And then I'm also part of the Moms as Principals group, so you can find us online too.
Tell us about the Moms group a little bit, would you?
Oh, the Moms group, the one that the Dads as Principals were our spinoff from? Moms as Principals started a long time ago, and I have to laugh because it was actually Andy who prompted a conversation with us because Lindsay Stempenhorst and Tracy and I were all side boxing and trying to push each other to blog more. Yeah. And I was laughing because I was like, we need a group from Principals in Action. We need a spinoff from Moms as Principals, because I said, Andy just talked about how his wife made dinner and he got to go home and eat dinner. And I was like, I still have to make the dinner. Like, I go home from my principal job and I have to make the dinner. Like, where's my wife?
In all fairness to my wife works full time too. So I shout out to my wife, Christine. I love you. Thank you.
But we all know that like our job doesn't end at 4. Like we're here late too. And at that point I was driving 45 minutes, 50 minutes home. And my husband, to be fair, he works way more hours than I do. He's a manager at a car dealership. And so he works more hours than I do. So anyway, we just knew that we had some perspective that was a little different as far as the mom guilt is real for moms. Yep. And I know dads have it too, but society's pressure on us is a whole other level. Yep. And we do that to ourselves. So don't get me wrong there. Moms versus moms, sometimes we aren't always kind to each other with those kinds of things, but we just needed that support, so we created the Moms as Principals, and it's been wonderful support network and women cheering on women. It's been great.
And so some of our amazing female leaders out there, amazing moms, where can they find you to join your group and participate and be part of that awesome network that we know you guys have?
Well, they can follow us at Moms as Principals on Twitter. And then if they are interested in joining the Voxer group, they should just message one of us. And we're all on there. We also have a website, so you can contact any of us and we will get you added.
And just for the record, because I think we have to keep the record straight, Andy and I know they have great events because we've crashed a few of them, and the Moms as Principals group definitely know how to put on a great little
That's right.
We do.
Yep.
We host well. We host well.
All right, let's get rolling.
Yeah. When we notice, I don't think we've ever done any dads as principals, like actual like meetups. Because we just get caught up in the moment and we try to organize that. That's why you moms are so much better than us with that. All right. So Kelley, this is a video you said you created by Nicole Gerwell, one of your teachers at Hey Mrs. G. And
Yes.
I hear that she's a fantastic teacher. And so big shout out to her. Yep.
So this is a playground that we had that we just got this school year. But what was unique about this is as principals, they wanted the principals to go out and look at these different examples of playgrounds and see what we liked. And I was like, okay, I'm 45. Who cares what I like on a playground, right? Mm-hmm. So I sent my kids fifth graders on a field trip, and they went to go look at all the playgrounds, and then they created a presentation for us of what big equipment they would like, what side equipment they would like, and what things we would need to keep, and what repairs might have to be done with those playground pieces. And so the 4th, 5th grade classes all went together, kind of became this project. They investigated the 7 elements of play. They talked about what was ADA, what would be appropriate age-wise for each playground, because we have 2. And they just went to town and really sold us. What was cool was then we sent those presentations. We had 4 full presentations. We sent those to the district and the playground equipment company. And they pretty much made it happen within the budget. And in fact, one of the guys came up to me when we were putting it in. Over the summer, I went and checked with them and was talking to the guy, and he goes, "Well, are you the principal who did this?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "We have loved this. This has been great research for us. We know what the kids like and love, and my playground has been busy even after hours. My 5th graders come back because they leave our building. They come back after school, and I see them every single day during car loop playing on our playground. So it's been a hit. And that was really important to me to have their voice in that, not mine.
That's amazing. So many people overlook that and just add those certain elements, In fact, sometimes they just take whatever the canned thing is, and they just put it in. They miss that whole opportunity, right?
Right.
Kelley, I know you and I, sorry, Andy, can we just go back 1 second? Because Kelley and I have had conversations over the years about curriculum and what it should look like. And this is something that Kelley, I know, is passionate about. She's passionate about authentic, relevant learning experiences for her kids. And I have this question, like, that is the best learning experience those kids could have had. Yes. Like, think about it. Curriculum versus the application of curriculum, which is just what happened. Like, they're taking the skill set, applying the skill set. Like, look, down the track, they'll take that experience and they'll be able to reapply that somewhere as a young adult, as an adult in the real world, the business world. Right. They did what adults should. And I'm wondering, that's what the curriculum should look like, right? Like, I get really passionate about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I don't know if you remember, but I went to a high school that was a magnet school in my junior and senior year, and it was in City Hall. So everything we did was around law, public, and social services. And it was wonderful because we got mentorships, and we were in judges. People were with judges or social workers or police officers. And so I learned so much about myself and grew in confidence so much by doing those tasks that when I have an opportunity to do something like this, I jump on it. And luckily, Nicole Gerwell, who actually helped make this video, was the one I turned to, because she was a 5th grade teacher last year. And I said, "Hey, they want me to go visit these playgrounds and play. What do I know? I'm going to look at something and think it's dangerous. I want my kids to do it." And I go, "I'll send you. I'll pay for it." And
they made presentations and they researched. Right. When you said they researched ADA and all that, like, that's what it should look like.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it was wonderful.
Great.
It was a wonderful experience.
And now, how did you have funds for that? Was it a rebuild? Was it?
It was part of a bond issue. Was to replace our playground. It was 20-something years old. The kids never played on it. Yeah. And so
and before we go, so your school, what's the school name?
Clear Creek Elementary.
And how big is your school?
600.
And what's the grade levels?
K5.
K5, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
What's cool is that playground design is what's being used across the district. So they're replacing all 7 elementaries, and that's what they are doing.
So look at the impact that your kids can have, right? That's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
I was proud of them. They did a great job presenting too.
Oh, that's what they're doing there. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So one of the other things that I've done is I'm one who always says yes if I can.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather not say no to anything a teacher comes to me for, because I'd rather fail forward. Mm-hmm. And Nicole Girl was actually supposed to be my tech teacher, but the district snatched her from me. But while she had done that, this was our vision before technology was taught in a computer lab, old school computer lab.
Yeah.
And I was like, we have this maker space. Kids aren't using it. Let's go. Let's make that our tech classroom. And so they did a really great job of building that into what we were doing and just going to town and having a great time. Mm-hmm. So I've been really proud of what that looks like. What you're looking at now is our kindergarten playroom. And they spend 40 minutes a day in there because we have 5 classrooms. And it's structured play. And we have sections for each one: school, writing, grocery, dramatic play, housekeeping. There's even a vet office and a grocery store. And I just believe in play. I don't think our kids play enough, and they learn so many social skills. There's also a sensory area. They're just doing puzzles, all types of stuff, building. And I'm proud of this room. It was here prior to me, but I will go to the mats to save this room if I ever have to.
Let me talk to you about that, because so this is a perfect example of what we're trying to find out, which is principals like you are making very specific, and I don't mean it's only your decision, but you're making very specific decisions and different pathways within your school that may be different from other schools, right?
Right.
A lot of kindergarten classrooms, they have play as part of their classroom.
Right.
And you're always sort of struggling with space, right?
Right.
But so what you did, and I'm sort of asking you about this, so it looks like you took sort of a common area, maybe an extra room, and put all of your stuff in one location, and then you do a rotation. And how many classes do you have? Maybe 3 or 4?
5 this year. I have 5 kindergarten sections this year.
Okay.
And they, like I said, they built this, and they have some play within their classrooms. They have very large classrooms, but they also, you can't have everything in your classroom, right? You couldn't have a grocery store, or you'd be trading those out a lot. Right. And what this does is dedicates 45 minutes a day for the kids to be structured in their play.
Yeah.
And it's outside of centers for math or centers for reading. This is a whole other thing. And then they also get 2, sometimes 3 recesses a day, because I'm big on play, especially with kinders. As a former kindergarten teacher, that's important to me. And so I feel like there's a lot of power in this classroom that happens.
No, absolutely. We need to value play as much as we do reading instruction, math instruction, especially play in school. And I got to emphasize, play in school is different than just play out in the community. Play in school is designed to be a safe space for kids where they can learn how to socialize, and you're directly involved in that. And I want to challenge teachers that when you're in this environment for play, this isn't a time for you to go do other things. This is a time for you to be as involved in instruction for those kids as you are with anything else you're doing. You need to be right in the moment, because those are unique opportunities that are just boom, 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 all over the place, that you can teach kids how to interact and turn taking.
How to play.
How to play. And especially nowadays, and I catch it with my kids too, where they just don't go out and just do all these things. They're so sort of secluded in their own little world, and the play they see a lot more now is online, which is a different kind of thing.
It's different.
Yeah, so kudos for you for making this such a priority in your school. 45 minutes for play, it sounds like a lot of people will be like, oh, that seems like a waste of time. That's crazy, right? What better thing can you do to help kids socialize? Because by the time you get 1st and 2nd grade and they don't know how to socialize, you realize, oh, we should have done that already, right? We should have already been working. Yeah.
Right. And I would love if my 1st grade would do it as well. I feel like they have more pressure, and the room, it's the time it takes to get, to switch everybody out there, I think would be the issue. But one of the things that I really feel like with kids is, all the things that we do in our house to help teach social skills and stuff, some of those things don't translate into real play.
Right.
And sometimes I feel like the kids aren't interacting enough, and so their edges aren't smoothed off in those natural ways, because they've they can't act like that with that friend. That friend's going to push back on them. And so that piece of it, and using their words and explaining how they're feeling, and in those moments, those are big time learning opportunities that we are not giving kids if we're having them sitting at centers and they're quietly working on something. So this is a whole other chance for them to develop.
And principals out there, you have to be clear with your teachers if you're okay with this, right? I think a lot of our teachers feel like, well, I want to do more play, but my principal won't let me. My principal's too focused on academics, or more focused on test scores, blah, blah, right? All these things that you hear about principals. You have to actually tell them actively that, yes, I think this is important. I value this. I do allow this, because we can say the green light, and we could say, yes, we're going to allow you to do things, but they have to like believe that, right? So you have to overemphasize sometimes that, yes, you really can do these things. I'm going to support you when you do that, right? And setting up a room is a perfect example of that, because that's really saying that. You know, like, you're not going to set aside that kind of resource unless you truly believe in it, right?
Absolutely.
Kudos
Absolutely.
I'd love to if I can just take a minute to have a really tough conversation, because I felt like we hinted at it a little bit earlier, and we didn't go there, and I'm going to go there because I think principals struggle with this conversation all across the country all the time. You said the maker's space was not being used, and I find it fascinating, right? Because we get these new, latest, sexy ideas that feel good, sound good, look good, all these things that, when done well, hey, they can really fly. But I think so often you get these great ideas like this, and if you don't have that one person that truly wants to own it, run with it, and maintain it, like I have a love-hate relationship with it. Like, you see a makerspace, for instance, they look fantastic at the beginning, right? Because they're fully stocked, they're organized, everything's there. But as you progress down, what happens, like all of a sudden it's not fully stocked, it's not organized, stuff's falling apart, people are not using it. And so I think as leaders, it's such a good conversation to have about what is it we're intentionally doing with our space? What is it we're intentionally allowing and bringing into our schools? What is it that we're intentionally telling our teachers we want them to engage and do with? And so I love the fact that you redistributed it a little bit. You rethought, you redistributed, reclassed, and came up with this concept that is definitely winning for you guys. Was it difficult in your school to say, hey, we're not doing makerspace, we're going to do this? Was there a process? What was that challenge? Because I can see a lot of teachers being really excited about makerspace for the first 5 minutes, and then second half of the year, it's like dead space.
Right. And it's interesting because that room where the makerspace was is kind of an activity room. It's an open concept room. We use it for meetings and all types of stuff, and tables could go in and out. It was very well put together for what it was, but I don't feel like all the teachers felt comfortable or confident in going in and using all the robotics or the 3D printer or all of the things. And I was like, okay, this room is used, but not used. And it's not used for the purpose of makerspace all the time. Some of them are using it for projects, but not necessarily tapping into the makerspace piece of it. And the DeSoto had done some work on their technology standards that they wanted to do in the district. And it just wasn't going to be feasible in that old school computer lab, right? And so Nicole had originally come to me and she says, okay, this is my design. This is what I want to do with that space, because I'd hired her to do the tech part and be my new tech teacher. And it was going to be completely different. She presented it to the PTO to get some funds. I had some funds that I could fund her with a little bit too. And we were ready to go to town. Well, the district snatched her up for me, and she's doing tech integration for all the new teachers, and it's great for her. She's amazing at it. So I hired another teacher within my building to do the job, and he was game to do it the way our dream was. And I gotta say, I've had pushback because there's a lot of concern about keyboarding and things like that. But we're also getting ready to go 1-to-1. Some of that stuff will come around naturally, and we still do that. He's teaching a lot of that still, but pushing it into the makerspace is allowing us to utilize that stuff more often and with different grade levels. And he really, really wants to work with the other teachers to integrate kind of what they're doing and helping them take it to the next level. Mm-hmm. So he really is big on that piece. He's learning how to communicate with them and balance the standards, but it's been hard. It was a hard transition. Well, we have another space on the other end of the building that's exactly the same, but we've always used it for our after school and before school care. And people forget that it's there, and they weren't using it because it was the JCPRD space. And I'm like, no, utilize it. If you want to do a presentation in there, if you want to do your spelling bee in there, if you want to do all the things that we were doing in the makerspace, do it down there. And I think it just was, they were so used to doing it a certain way that they forgot they had other ways of doing things. And so there was pushback. I think there'll continue to be some pushback while this new program is going, and the new teacher. But I think they will become believers as they see the progress the kids are making.
And as a principal, did you spend a lot of time like going around talking to individual teachers, getting it hyped up? Like, what was your process in helping with that transition?
That process was a lot of conversations and a lot of this is what it's going to be, and this is where we're going, and this was the reason, and really explaining that the tech standards had really changed. Like what the old tech teacher who just retired from us and what was going to be new is not because Craig is the new teacher, and he wants to do things differently. It's because everything changed.
Right.
And so, it's changed. So it's always a little hard. And you always look back and go, okay, I wish I could have done this differently, or maybe I should have done that differently. But in many ways, it's just highlighting and continuing to highlight what he's doing in there so that they can see. Because you know how it is. You don't always know what's going on in a classroom or what they're doing. And you have to show. Sometimes you have to show for people to believe, right?
Yeah.
So
I think to Hamish's point, when you have these initiatives, you either A, have to specifically fund positions for those initiatives, or B, you have to be all in as a leader, and you have to know that I'm going to commit to support this initiative, or else it's not going to work.
Right.
And so many times leaders say, oh, I want to do this, and I want to do this, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I'm guilty of this too.
Yeah.
But you have to know that if you're willing to do that, you got to support it all the way. And if you're not willing to support that, you cannot go in that many directions.
Right.
And you have to sort of get feedback from your staff. But if you really think it's important, you got to just drive this thing. You got to make sure that it's supported, funded, that there's staff or whatever that's going to be.
And I
think that's the thing. You have to jump in, and in some ways you have to believe in it as much as anyone else does. And I did. This is what I saw, that my vision was to do this. This is what I'd love to see for tech. And so when Nicole came to me and was like, I want to do this, I'm like, I'm in. Let's do it.
Awesome.
So,
and just finally, I like the critical ingredient of making sure you went around talking to staff and people about the why. Hey, this is the mission, this is the vision, but this is the why. The standards have changed. This is what it has to look and feel like. This is the why. Because if teachers don't know the why, if your audience doesn't know the why, they can't move that. And that makes change even more difficult to bring about.
And something I want to piggyback off that, Hamish, because, we've talked all the time about going to conferences and how important it is to go to conferences like NAESP and to get these takeaways and learn from people and put these ideas in place. And that's such a value to the organization like that. My one thing is that when you're at these conferences, listen to that why about these things as well. And take that also. Don't just take the idea. Take the why behind the idea. Because when you get to sell it to your staff, and you're like, oh, this is a cool thing. I know a lot of staff probably thinks, oh, here we go. Andy just went to a conference. Kelley just went to a conference. Back with a thing. But you got to write down the notes to the why behind it and sell that as well. And so just to keep that in mind when you're at these things and to share that. Before we go on, there is a piece here that I know you're doing this. That's something we do. I think what you're doing here is something we do as well. So talk to me about this for your playtime.
Okay, so when the kids come in, they're numbered. So number 1 is a red clip, as you can see. And they choose which center they're going to play at. And there's the 3 dots are by most of them. I think there's one with 2 dots, but that's how many people are limited to those spaces. And so teachers pick in different orders every day so that it's not number 1 getting to pick first all the time. But it helps build a safe place for kids to go so they don't have too many in the one area and they're not bebopping around. If you ever taught preschool and they bebop around, that can cause an issue because you're like, okay, that child is here and now they're here and they need the most support and I'm all over the place and I can't get them focused. So this kind of helps with that.
Yeah, this creates, again, like we were talking about earlier, the free play into more of a structured play.
Yes.
Which makes it a lot safer, a lot more intentional. I wanted you to highlight that. That's great. That's great. Yeah. All right, let's get into your next topic here. I know something you're passionate about.
So part of these are some pictures of my teachers and myself, and we do a big old scavenger hunt at the end of the school year every year as our leadership kind of kickoff for the next year, and building a relationship with my staff is huge for me. We all went to the Royals game. I am not a Royals fan, but I'm there. And they all know it and they give me a hard time about it. But just finding ways to connect is huge for all of us, because if we can look at each other as the people that we are in our hearts, it just makes the work so much easier, and getting to know each other. I do a lot of work around something called inspired leadership. In fact, I'm going to be presenting that this week to my staff. And it's all about how we rebound from those hard moments and stressful moments to find win-wins and to do what's best for the staff. By the way, the elf thing I stole from Andy, and it was a huge hit.
It was awesome.
And we had
I love that one. Hold on, I got to pause because I saw this whenever you posted. I saw this earlier when I watched the video. I love her. What's her name in the front?
That's Madison, and she is a hoot and a half. And in fact, I don't know if that picture showed up, but her husband is an Olympian. He's a shot put or discus. Anyway, he's huge. And she has a cutout of him, and she brought him on the last day.
That's funny.
To hang out with us too. So
I just love the attitude. I love this. Yeah, we did this. This was one of our best days. It was so fun. People getting into it. It's sometimes you need to give people an excuse to have fun. And sometimes it's a prompt. The prompt or the. Oh, this is great. So let me stop that.
So
go.
Okay, I walked into a building that had a leader that it didn't go well. For whatever reason, it wasn't going well. And so I feel like I came in with a little bit of staff who had some PTSD in certain ways as far as, and I hate to use that word, but that's kind of what I feel like I was stepping on landmines I had no idea I was stepping on at times. And getting to know people and just being very authentic and vulnerable in those moments of, listen, if I step on something or if I do something or you're concerned, I need you to tell me and be honest with me, because I can't fix what I don't know. And, I see this building as I said to somebody there when I first started, I said, this building is the cupcake. It's got the frosting. It's delicious. I just want to add the sprinkles on top. Like, let me just.
That's a good analogy. Yeah. That's a good analogy. I know Andy loves his analogies, and that's definitely a good one. But if a principal is listening, a new principal, an experienced principal, someone changing buildings, any advice you'd give them to spot, identify, know what those landmines might look or feel like?
I got to come here last year, the school year, at the end of the school year before I was starting, and I spent a day and I met with every team. And I really wanted to get to know them, but it was interesting because they needed me to know certain things, and they wanted certain things backed up. And sometimes I got a little bit of a challenge, like I don't handle behavior the way certain people do. I'm not there's a matrix. Okay, that was step one. You should have this go wrong. I'm more of a.
Don't get me started with those.
Yeah. So I'm a logical consequence kind of girl, and. And find out what way is going to work with that kid. Yeah. And so I got a little bit, I'm like, I just need you to understand this is who I am. This is why I do it. And so those landmines were kind of shown to me, but I have to say it's when you're doing the work and the step-by-step and getting to know key people on your staff who will be honest with you about those things and who will come to you about those things and say, hey, this is kind of how that might be taken. Perfect. Thanks for letting me know. I can scoot by that. And just really building relationships. Unfortunately, like, it's hard to build relationships with every person in your building that first month. It's not fair. It's not authentic. Right. So finding your like team leaders that are truly the voice, that's been super helpful for me. And it's getting better all the time. Lynn Colon always says that first year you're dating, right? The second year you're engaged. And so we're in engagement. It's beautiful. So very happy. And
yeah, you're in that little lovey-dovey time period right now.
Yeah. I know the honeymoon might be over at times, although last year I feel like that we had some moments like that. But you know what? At the end of the day, I have such good people here and with good hearts and good intentions. And as long as I look for that light in every single person, we're going to be fine.
Awesome.
So.
Awesome. Way to go, Kelley. Well, I'll tell you what, it's been an honor and a pleasure on our end. I'm so excited to get you on, and I know you delivered. You delivered. And I want to piggyback what Hamish says, that what you see is what you get with Kelley. She's completely authentic. She's always real with you. She's not in for anything else but just to help schools and help kids and help you if you need it. So reach out to her if you need anything. But I appreciate you coming on, Kelley. I
appreciate it. I have to tell you one thing that my son said to me, my oldest, he's going to be an engineer. And he was like, Mom, I just don't understand. You work so much, I don't, don't you want to settle down and go date? I said to Braden, I said, I go to school every day and I love it. Yeah. Like, this is what this is not work to me. This is hard, but it's passion. And I said, so when you find that job, you're there for the right reasons. It's not the same. It doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, it's who you are, and you bleed that too. That what you do is who you are, definitely.
Yeah.
Kelley, one last time for the audience, where can they find you? Where can they connect with you? And again, what's coming up next for Kelley?
I can be found at Twitter at McCall_Kelley, and that's probably the easiest place to find me. And things that are coming up, I'm doing some more speaking and really getting out there and really working hard on helping with kind of forge the way with the communities that need us the most, those especially our transgender kiddos. So that's kind of been my force right now in my life.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's a calling, and whatever you're passionate about, you're gonna be the best speaker about too, right? It's something that feels important. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for all you listeners out there, viewers. Make sure you check out more amazing videos like Kelley here. I don't know if they'll be as amazing as Kelley's, but they're all great. And www.naesp.org/CIL. Sign up and share your story with us. Keep the discussion going on Twitter and other social media with, for me, it's _Andy Jacks. For Hamish, it's @BrewerHM. Go to the NAESP page and you'll see videos as well as blog posts where they take insights from these into actually written work too. Pretty amazing stuff. Make sure that if you're not a member and you're watching this, I want a big shout out to NAESP. You have to be a member. You have to be connected. This job is just too difficult to do alone. And the membership goes a long way for that because it just builds that community. And you always get sort of in the loop when you do those things. So make sure you be a part of the big group.
Absolutely.
All right, Kelley, thank you. All right, folks, remember, don't stagnate,
innovate.